Hello and welcome to OBS Obsessed. My name's John Lacey. This is a show all about OBS Studio, and today we're going to be talking about capturing vertical video. So this is something that's been coming up in a lot of Facebook groups recently, and I was really intrigued to see how people are grappling with the idea of vertical video. And I think it's something that we probably should spend a little bit of time unpacking. And I must admit, I'm a little bit rusty when it comes to streaming because I haven't been doing it that often. So there are a number of things going wrong this morning, but that's okay. We'll get through it. What I do want to sort of... wow, okay. We do have comments, but again, because I'm in here, I need to press the second button, which is this one here. Hello to Saeed, the facilitator, says, hey, John, time zones are weird. And Michael, Business Growth Ready, says, good day. Great to have your company, guys. I know I haven't been here very often, but it's really great to have your company. And what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about vertical video. And I know this is confusing a lot of people on the Facebook groups, as I said. So I kind of want to unpack a few things. First of all, because I'm literally just answering questions that came up on Facebook this week. But the first one is somebody asked about this thing. This is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This is a really cool camera. In fact, if I turn it on, and I'm pretty sure Michael actually has one of these as well. But essentially, we can capture 4K in horizontal, we can capture 3K in vertical, but somebody was asking if this thing can be used as a web camera, and the answer is simply yes. So I'm going to show you how to do that and what settings we're going to use. So first, I'm just going to turn this off. I'm going to put it back on my desk. This is a bit fraught because there's so much stuff on my desk. It's honestly ridiculous. I need to clean my desk, something terrible. I'm going to try and plug this in. It actually didn't occur to me earlier, but I've got this thing, and that's slightly obscuring where the USB connection is. So I might even just take out this phone holder, because that's going to be a problem, potentially, or I'll just move it down. Okay, cool. All right, let's put this down. So again, we're just connecting this to our computer with USB, and it comes with a USB cable, although to be honest, I think the one I'm using is completely unrelated. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch this on, just hitting that red power button, and it comes up with two different options. One's for file transfer and one is for webcam. It actually defaults to the webcam one after a couple of seconds, so it's kind of done that already for me. So I'm going to go and turn this around and focus on me. The thing that and this is a great point, so let me just bring this up on the screen really quickly. I'm so out of practice, this is ridiculous. But Business Growth Ready writes, nice bit of kit, removes the friction of creating content, absolutely. So the great thing about this, and it's at a really weird angle, but again, if I switch, and there are settings about this that you can change, but if I sort of switch the orientation of my screen, it'll actually change what is being shown here. I'm going to move it ever so slightly just to show you less of the background behind me. But now let's actually open up OBS. Let me do the old screen share thing. Hopefully that's still working. All right, cool. So I've got a new blank installation of OBS. I've got a whole lot of nothing in here, but what we want to do is we want to add the OBS, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 as a web camera. It is 1080p with 30 frames per second. So if we go down to add our new video capture device, it's always a good idea to give these things meaningful names. So I'll say Osmo Pocket 3 and click OK. And now, if I pick Osmo Pocket 3 from the list, you'll see this. And this is actually what a person on Facebook was complaining about, because by default, it doesn't fill the screen. So what we do need to do is actually go down, and where it says resolution, frames per second type, we're going to actually change this to custom. And in this resolution, we're going to change this to 1920 by 1080. And again, it's kind of at a weird angle. I haven't really got this set up particularly well, but essentially we've got that there. The bonus sort of side quest here is if you want to capture audio from the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 in OBS, we do need to configure that a little bit differently. So if I go OK now, you'll see there's nothing in the audio mixer. So if we go back in to our settings, And we go right down to the bottom, use custom audio device. And we can, it's actually defaulted to capture input terminal Osmo Pocket 3, which is the one we want. And we can click OK, and you can see that that's capturing audio here. And it might be, it could be that it's the inbuilt audio from this. It could also be that you've got like a wireless mic attached to this. So you kind of need to make a choice about how you want to use that. But essentially, that's what that looks like. In fact, let me just go full screen so you can see more of it. Again, it's at a really weird angle, but this isn't really the angle I would recommend. In fact, I could probably just go up a little bit. So there we go. That's essentially all you need to do to bring the Osmo Pocket 3 in. So the thing about this, though, is it's going to be the theme of today, and I hope I don't sound too condescending when I say this, but we need to keep in mind that we're working with rectangles here, and the orientation of those rectangles are really important, because if I were to switch this back, now I'm actually getting a vertical video. So I'll show you. In fact, let's do it right now. So if I did want to capture vertical video, this is a really great way of doing it. But let's go to our file menu, go to the settings, and let's just go to where it says video. And instead of 1920 by 1080, I'm literally going to swap that around. If it'll let me, maybe it won't let me. I guess I can type it in. Although, there we go. I think that's right. I generally keep my output the same, and I get the feeling that's a weird thing that most people don't do. But 1080 by 1920. So now, what we're actually capturing is just the center bit, and it is kind of weird because if in this example, I probably want to change it here as well. So we'll go 1080. Oh. 1080 by 1920. And again, I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to transform, and I'm going to say fit screen. And there we go, we've got our vertical video. So the theme of today, and I know we've got some great comments, I'll get to those in a second, but the thing that we need to keep in mind is a couple of things. Like, first of all, what is the orientation of your camera? Because that's going to be important. It's really going to be important. And secondly, how we bring it into OBS. And part of the reason, and I'm just going to delete this Osmo Pocket 3 for the moment. We can bring it back if we need to. And I'm going to turn it off. And I am actually going to unplug this because even though it can charge via my computer, it's going to be making annoying beeping sounds in the back end all the time. So the thing that, in fact, let me just check in with the comments first before we go any further. There's a whole lot of good stuff happening over here. So Seed writes, just updated to OBS 32.1 with no troubles so far. Not that anyone asked. Again, I have this complicated relationship with the upgrade process. I kind of put it off for the longest time. And then a couple of weeks ago, I just actually started from scratch. I exported my scene collections because there were like 20 of them and I used maybe 4 of them. So I thought I just need to simplify all of this. So I got rid of them. I don't think I've gone to 32.1 yet, but oh, actually, no, sorry. I'm actually on 32. Well, yeah, actually, I'm on 32.0.4, so not quite there, but that is good to know. Business Gross Ready says, I think that's a weird OBS webcam quirk because it did the same Logitech webcam, brings it in as a square image. It's interesting. I very rarely don't have to do that. I have to do that all the time. So I'm so used to it for various cameras, but it is worth just double checking because I think a lot of people assume that it'll do that and it doesn't always. And Saeed says, always need to add the resolution manually for my Logitech webcam. Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. I think don't be scared of this, but just know that it's probably a step you'll need to do. And that brings me, I guess, to the second portion of this, which is somebody on Facebook was asking about bringing in their web camera, and they had a Logitech. I'm sure I have the exact same Logitech somewhere. I couldn't find it last night, so I'm not going to show you that. I'm going to show you this relic. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember this thing. I don't even know what model it is, but this is a Logitech web camera. It has this handle, which the idea is that you put it on top of a monitor. And it is pretty banged up, and I'll probably throw it out after today, but I found it in storage and I thought that's just hilarious. I have to show you. But the thing is, the person on Facebook actually had a much newer version of this, but it was mounted on their monitor. And the thing you have to understand about this is when you're getting this orientation, you're going to get that rectangle. If you want vertical, you're going to have to sort of move it in that direction or maybe that direction. And again, depending on the web camera you have, depending on the mounting options that are before you, you're going to have to think about that carefully. What's that, Logitech for Windows 3.1? Probably. No, probably Windows XP, I'm guessing. But again, that's something I've had for ages, and I did actually break it last night, although I'm sure it doesn't work anyway. And I don't know what resolution it gives you. Say it's suggesting maybe 270p. Maybe. I don't know that it works. I'm not gonna actually try it out. But the thing about that is you do need to think about the orientation. And I am gonna actually, before I do that, I'm gonna show you how we can bring in the Elgato face cam. But I did want to mention too, this actually comes with this little thing, which again, you screw into the bottom of the web camera with that thread, and you can mount that onto the monitor. But again, you're in that same situation where you're probably only going to get horizontal. So if you do, and again, this will depend very much on your webcam. And again, look at the instruction manual. I know people hate it when I say that, but look at it. But think about what kind of tripods you have, because, you know, if I've got something like this and I can mount it to the top, that's great for horizontal. But potentially, can I, and I don't think I'm not even sure I can for this. In fact, I can't for this one. In fact, let me show you the Elgato Facecam version. So this is actually on a Elgato mini mount, and the mini mount is actually no longer available for purchase. But the thing I like about this is I can sort of unscrew this, and I can put this in a horizontal fashion, and I can put it on the side and put it in a vertical orientation. So this will become important. And there is a workaround if you do need to leave it in the horizontal, and I'll show you that in just a second. I don't know what this angle is going to look like, and to be honest, don't judge me on the basis of this angle. I'm sure it's going to be horrendous, but let's just go through the process of adding it. So let's go back to the screen share. All right, so I've got this connected. I'm going to go and add my source. So add a video capture device, and this time I'll go Facecam. And again, from the drop down, let's pick the Facecam MK2. And it's very, very dark. And I think I was using this as sort of a doorbell security camera. And I think I had to change a lot of this stuff. But let me just go to configure video and go default. Okay, that's probably a better representation. But again, what we want to do here is we want to change the resolution or frames per second to custom. And we are still getting 1920 by 1080. That is what we're sort of aiming at here. But because this camera doesn't sort of think about vertical and horizontal in the same way the DJI does, we'll have to actually flip this. So I think at the moment, we've got this web camera. It's not really in the orientation we want. If we right click on this and go transform, and I'm never really good at this, but I'm gonna say let's go counterclockwise. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay, I think that's all right. So there we can do that, and we can go transform, and we can go fit to screen. Interestingly, that's not going to work here because it's convinced that this actually is that. So I'm going to have to just manually drag that. In fact, I could probably center it. That's what I'd do. So I go center to screen. There we go. And it's funny, I didn't appreciate just how bad this is. So what I might do, I'm going to deactivate this. I'm just going to go to the camera hub software. And hopefully this won't crash everything, but I guess we'll find out in time. And I just want to see if I can reset these defaults. So, yes, that is a good one. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my cam link. And I'm going to change. I'm just going to reset the exposure. Okay. All right. Cool. Just so it's a little bit, you know, more representative of what I actually expect to see. I'm just going to go back in here and activate this again. I don't know. It seems incredibly dark here, and I'm not really sure why, but let's not dwell on that for too much. For today, configure video, low light compensation. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's weird. So I went in here and I turned off this low light compensation and it came good. So anyway, that's what we need to do. But I guess the thing is, and in some ways, and it's actually, that camera's frozen on me, and that happened the last time I tried using this camera for something, and it has just disconnected as well. So I have a weird feeling there's some issues. In fact, both my cameras disappeared. Hopefully you can still hear me. That's joyful. It's the joy of doing things live. It's just everything that can go wrong will go wrong. All right, so I'm going to deactivate that. I'm going to activate it again. Hopefully it'll stick around for a little bit longer. Again, that is so dark and weird. And if I configure the video and if I turn off the low light compensation, it seems to be a little bit more representative of what I would expect to see. So I guess the other thing, and I might even cheat a little bit here. I'm just going to go and turn on my virtual camera from the other OBS. I'm going to start that. So if you can physically change the orientation of your camera, that can be a really useful thing to do. But let's just go back to the screen share. I'm actually going to just hide the Elgato face cam. I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to just bring in the video capture device, which is sort of the OBS virtual camera. And that's just sort of me on this background. Again, I will need to, in fact, that's fine for the moment. So what I kind of want to do is just explain briefly, like if you do have a vertical frame and you're trying to fit a horizontal box into it, first of all, it's a good idea to sort of go to the preview scaling. And I think we've got scale to window. If I go to canvas, and I hold down the space bar and just sort of use the scroll wheel to zoom out. That's really, really useful. And what I can do is I can sort of drag the corners to fill up this space, and I can reposition myself. So if you can't physically change the orientation of your camera, this is another way of going. Keep in mind that you probably, depending on your camera, you might be actually extending this a little bit beyond like the pixel ratio. So at some point, if you zoom in too much, you will get fairly pixelated. So just keep that in mind. But that's often a good way of going. The thing that Saeed sort of mentioned earlier, which I don't think I mentioned, is that we do have this magical red dot. So if I can click on that, I can change the orientation of that if I need to as well. And I guess, like for me, I bring in a couple of different versions. I sort of record a vertical version of what I do in the stream separately, just so I have a sort of a starting point if I want to make YouTube shorts. And for me, like I deliberately leave a section of this screen sort of black, which funnily enough is kind of, it's almost like this in my version, although I am smaller in the frame. So I'll literally sort of zoom in a little bit more and I'll have a section here, which is sort of left intentionally blank. So that's just what I do. And I also usually leave a little bit of space up here so I can, you know, if I've got a screen capture or something, I want to put on top of that as well. So that's essentially what we're working with. What I'm going to do, I'm going to deactivate the face cam because I don't need it. It's got a blue light on it. It's just distracting me. So I'm going I'm going to get rid of that. So what I want to do now is let's talk about Aitum Vertical. So obviously at the moment we've got a single canvas here, and it is in a vertical orientation. By default, there's a really good chance when you open up, you will be in 1920 by 1080. So it will be more like this rectangle that we're seeing here. And the great thing about the Aitum Vertical plugin is it actually gives you a second canvas. So I'm just going to bring up the old Aitum Vertical sites. This is aitum.tv, and they have a whole bunch of products. They have their own Aitum app, which I think is essentially a chat app. But if we go to the different products, they've also got the Stream Suite, which actually takes over OBS and gives you a whole bunch of different docks and canvases that you can use. I haven't quite wrapped my brain around all of that yet, but maybe that's a future show. We've got multi-stream, which is really good for sending out different streams from OBS to different destinations, and we've got the vertical. So the vertical essentially lets you have two canvases. By default, the second canvas is vertical, but it actually doesn't have to be. You can change it to any sort of rectangle or square you like. And you can stream via that. You can just save it as a separate video. You can do all of the things. So essentially what you can do is we can go download, and I think yeah, so it automatically downloads, I think, an installer. For today's purposes, I have had to find a zip file that I could install on my portable version, but essentially all you do is install it from the zip file. And what that will give you is that if we go to the docs now, we will get several additional things here. So we've got the vertical itself, which is our second canvas, which is just behind my head here. If we go to vertical scenes and vertical sources, we actually have the ability to add vertical scenes and vertical sources, as the name suggests. So what I might do, I'm gonna actually just maybe resize this window a little bit so we can see more of this. And essentially now you've got the tools to build out sort of a horizontal and a vertical version of both of these at the same time. So again, I might even just drag this out and make it a little bit wider. So now if you've got a, and I'm going to rename this. I'm going to say John only, and I'm going to rename this one, and I'll say John only vertical. And now I can go and sort of add my sources in here. So the sources can be the same as the horizontal, or they can be different. So in this case, I'm actually going to go and add my video capture device, and I could go new, but what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use the same OBS virtual camera that I've got over here. But again, the important thing here is you're going to have to think about resizing it, or maybe creating some sort of border. Like, you're going to have to think about how this actually fits inside the frame. So, you know, for my purposes, I might even just create that at the bottom of the frame. Again, this is a great opportunity where maybe you want to think about using some of those great plugins that we have access to, like Advanced Mask, that kind of thing. I'm just going to check in with the comments because I feel like people are saying really good things that I need to tell you about. If you just need some vertical shots, this is very easy. A profile and scene collection for vertical is good enough. Yeah, and I think I do really like the vertical plugin way of working, but if you don't want to do the same things in horizontal and vertical, I often think having just an installation of OBS that is purely for vertical and one that's purely for horizontal can be really good. Say it also writes, I installed it the other day. The Stream Suite is basically just vertical and multi-stream. Yeah, it is. It's interesting, and like I said, I haven't quite wrapped my brain around all of that, but it is kind of interesting. So and again, the thing about this is the minute you start thinking about this, you'll forever be thinking about how you can fit different objects into different shape frames. So I could have a color source. I could create a new color source. I don't think I can actually, oh, there we go. Maybe I've got a custom color. So if I go maybe 1080 by 1920, that'll fill the whole thing. I'll drag that down so it's underneath. That's not the right color, evidently, but I should have those details. I really should, but anyway. I'm sure I have that value somewhere, but I'm not going to worry about it too much now. But again, if you do need to fill it with some space, color source is a great way of doing it. It could be that I actually want to bring in an image. I'll go new, and I'm just going to find an image that I can put at the top of my screen. So if I go to my computer and the place I keep my thumbnails, and this one here, for example. So again, what I can do is I can actually right click and go to transform and maybe fit your screen. Again, it's going to want to center it, but if I potentially drag that up. In fact, I don't think I would use fit to screen in that case. I'd probably, let's just go transform and let's just reset that. And what I would do, in fact, because I kind of know the dimensions of this, if I go to transform and I go to edit transform, if I just make this 1080, it's not going to do that proportionally for me. That's annoying. All right, let's not worry about that then. I should know that. In fact, I think 1080 720 maybe. No, that doesn't look right. All right, let's just reset it. It doesn't matter. So if you do stretch things out of proportion, just go transform, reset transform. Again, if I just bring that to the corner, and I might want to just make this a bit smaller. So maybe it's something like that. I don't know. Again, I'm just making this up on the fly. If you're doing this for a real project, you would spend a little bit more time getting this right, but just to show you. So the point at which this gets interesting, and it's really interesting, this version of OBS, which I guess is OBS 32.0.4. Okay, it's prompting me to make a lot of save changes, which I guess is not a bad thing, but it is what it is. So the thing about this, and I'm going to create a second scene, and I'm just going to say scene 2, and I'm going to say scene 2 vertical. Again, we can add whatever sources we want into here. In fact, what I might do, I'm just going to go image, and I'm going to grab the existing one, and I'm going to do that here as well. So we've got this in the vertical and the horizontal. Again, think about what you're going to do here. Maybe you do want to actually just grab this red point and flip it around. Maybe that would work. Again, you need to think about what that looks like. But the point at which this gets interesting is with the vertical scenes, if I right click on a vertical scene, I can actually link it to a horizontal scene. So if I go scene 2, and I go to the John only version, and I go link scenes to the first scene. Now if I click between these, you will see that this change is also happening down here. So both of these things are happening simultaneously, which could be a really useful thing. Again, I might even just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see more of that. And another thing that's really awesome about this is if we go, there's a little settings cog behind my head that you can't see, but if I click on that in the vertical box, it gives us all kinds of options. We can choose our resolution, we can do backtracking, we can have streaming settings and recording settings. My favorite one is this start and stop recording when main OBS starts and stops recording. So when I do that, again, might be a little hard to see, but I'm just going to give it a go. I'm just going to say start recording on my main control panel. Again, it's behind my head. I'll move it over here so you can actually see what I'm doing over here. So this is the controls. I'm going to hit start recording. And it'll start recording here, but it's also recording here. So now whatever I do here, it's recording in both places. So by the end of this, I will actually have a vertical video and a horizontal video. And again, depending on your use case, this might be useful or this might be excessive. So just keep that in mind. I know some people are vertical only, some people are horizontal only. Again, my main use case for this really is just to have another recording of me in a vertical frame, just to make my life a little bit easier when I make my reels. And again, I think the people watching right now have probably seen that in action, so you have some sense of how that works. All right, so we're going to come back in a second. I just want to take a moment to talk about the other thing that sort of cropped up during the week, which was about audio monitoring. So we'll do that in just a second. And it's this point I wish that the coffee I went and reached for beside me wasn't empty, because that would have been a great opportunity to actually drink some coffee. But never mind. We'll get some when we're done here today. So again, another thing that came up during the week, and again, this is all informed by people's questions on Facebook groups, is about audio monitoring. So I'm going to come into one of my scenes here, and I'm going to go and add a media source. And I'm going to just say, I'm just going to call it video. And I'm just going to drag this, and I'm going to come over and find a video, maybe even just that one we watched a second ago. Might be a good example. All right, so local file. I could loop it if I wanted to. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Use hardware decoding when available. I might use that. That might be good. So if I click OK, we'll see that video pops up here. And you will see the audio is popping up in the audio mixer. I realize you guys on the stream can't hear that, and you won't be able to hear that even when I change these settings, but I just want to give you a sense of what these settings actually are. So in the audio mixer, and if you're not seeing the audio mixer, go to the docs and just make sure it's selected. If we go to the three dots and go to advanced audio properties, and I might even just go back to that to bring the video on. At the moment, you can see this is spiking, and I probably would bring this down in volume, maybe minus 6 dB. But we have these audio monitoring options. So monitor off essentially means that the video or the stream would hear it. And you wouldn't. Monitor only means you hear it, but the stream or the recording doesn't hear it. And monitor and output means both of us hear it. So again, I know you won't hear this, but I'm going to turn it on. I should be able to hear it. Yes, I can. Yep. So you probably want to think about the use case for some of this stuff. Like, you know, there are things that you want to hear and things that you don't want to hear. I think in this sort of little short video that I played a second ago, it's good for me to hear the music because I know when it ends that I'm physically switching back to a different scene when it ends. But, you know, if you have your own audio, so if you were bringing in, if I was bringing in my Rodecaster, for example, and we'll just go with the stereo. Testing, 1, 2, 3. You know, that's something I don't really want to hear again because that would be incredibly annoying. In fact, let me just see if I can try that again. You guys won't hear it, but testing, 1, 2, 3. There is a little bit of a lag. It's actually not as bad as I thought it would be, but it is annoying, and I don't really want to hear myself back in that way. I kind of already do via the Rodecaster anyway, but yes, I love this. So Saeed writes, ironically, you can even set the resolution of the second recording to horizontal 1920 by 1080. Yes. So that's the thing. Like, you get two canvases and you can do whatever the hell you want with them. I know it's called vertical. They don't have to be vertical. You can do whatever you like. And the thing, like, imagine you were recording one demonstration in real time for two different audiences and maybe two different conferences, and you wanted their logos on the recordings. And like, sure, you could just record that thing and then go into the editing software and add that stuff manually, but you literally could just do these two different scenes at the same time. And you could change the color palette. You could, you could have different colors. You could have different fonts. The branding opportunities there are kind of mind-boggling. So, again, I don't know that that's a use case for everybody, but I think it probably is a use case for some people. So that's definitely worth exploring. All right. One other thing I kind of want to mention, and I only want to mention this briefly. I don't want to scare anybody. Just because I haven't really been live that often, I just want to bring your attention to some OBS news. So, OBS Studio, it's free and open source, and you can download it from obsproject.com, and that is the place you should be downloading it from. Don't download it from anywhere else, because that can get very, very dicey very quickly. Unfortunately, we do live in a world where people are trying to get rid of malware in that fashion, so just be really, really careful. And I guess the thing I wanted to draw your attention to was that I want to say a week or two ago, there actually was, in fact, I'm looking at this on my LinkedIn, but it's not jumping out at me, but I know it's definitely on my YouTube channel. What basically happened was that there were some accounts for the OBS forums that were compromised, and it seems for a couple of plugins, they actually did, they were replaced by malware for a little bit of time. So let me just show you this announcement. And so obsproject.com, and this is in the forums, a resource security incident. So in the last several weeks, we have identified several accounts on the official OBS Studio forums that have become compromised as part of a coordinated attack. The accounts that were targeted were owners of plugin resources that were updated with malicious versions in an attempt to exploit users of OBS for unknown reasons. And there are these three plugins, so Click Sound, and they've got versions and dates, SR Beep, and OBS WebSocket. And they do note that it's only for this plugin version of this. But if in the event, and I've never really heard of any of these, I've never used any of these, but in the event that you do use these, you might want to check quite closely as to when you last downloaded and or updated them. But this actually does, and this has been resolved. So, I mean, it's just, there was a window of time. It looks between essentially February. So just keep that in mind. I don't want anyone to be too scared of that, but just be mindful of it. And I do appreciate that they were so open and transparent about that. They do kind of recommend that we all get into the habit of enabling two-factor authentication just to make sure that... in fact, they've done that themselves. Not only do they recommend we do that, but it actually says, additionally, we have implemented a new requirement that all accounts must enable two-factor authentication to be able to post a new resource or update an existing resource. So again, I don't want to be too scary about that, but I just want you to be mindful of it. So again, those are not plugins I've ever heard of or played with, but they exist and they were compromised. So we do need to be a little bit mindful of this sort of stuff moving forward. Okay. I think that was all I really intended to cover today. I think. Those were the four things. So again, just to recap, DJI Osmo Pocket 3, you can definitely use that as a webcam. In fact, it's got that functionality. I guess the thing to keep in mind is that the functionality for that is 1920 by 1080. It's not the 4K. If you do want the 4K, you probably need to record that and then work with that separately. But again, it's a relatively easy thing to do. Just connect it to USB, turn it on, grab that webcam option, and just go into OBS, add the source for that one, and just configure those settings. And again, the only gotcha, and it sounds like it's a gotcha for many, many different cameras, is that we do need to specify the custom resolution. And again, if you do want to use the audio from the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, you do need to specify that as its own little input, which is definitely worth keeping in mind. Again, if you do have a webcam and you do want to capture proper vertical camera, in its true resolution, it's a good idea to physically move that in such a way that you actually do have it pointing in that orientation. And again, let me see if I can do some visual prop. So this is the face cam from Elgato, and again, because of the tripod, I can actually have that on the side if I want to. So that could be a way of working. But if you don't have that ability, the other thing to do is just to zoom in, crop your image, make sure the important thing is in the center, and go from there. The Aitum Vertical plugin, of course, great thing to play with. And again, if you do want to play with plugins and you don't want them to impact your current installation, it's definitely worth actually downloading a zip file and setting up a portable version. And I've done that. It's funny, every time I need to actually do a portable version of OBS, this is kind of hilarious, but I'm going to level with you because it's absolutely true. I actually have to Google an article I wrote a million years ago. Let me show you this. So this is on johnlacey.com. I literally come into the year and say, you know, and all I do is follow these instructions, and a lot of it is literally just copying -- portable and adding it to the end of the target. And that's something I do all the time. And I have to say, and I'd be really interested, I suspect Saeed's a lot more disciplined than I am, but I probably have 20 versions of OBS on my computer right now. And I definitely don't need that many. I'm going to have to go in and delete a few. But yes, if you do want to play with them, that's a really good way of doing it. And I guess the newer versions of OBS also come with that really fabulous plugin manager. And again, I'll show you this as well. So now with the newer versions, and I don't know exactly, probably 32 onwards, we actually have the ability to manage the enabled plugins. So if you find that something is crashing your OBS and you want to get rid of it, you can physically delete those files if you know where they are, but you can also just deselect that and click OK. I'm not going to do that here because I'm literally running this as my stream version of this. But again, we could also do that over here with my other version of OBS, which I've kind of lost already. Maybe I closed that. Oh no, there it is. Yep. So again, we could do that here. So you go to the Tools menu, you go to Plugin Manager, and at the moment, the only thing I've got installed here is the vertical canvas, but I could potentially turn that off. And it does say OBS Studio must be restarted to apply the plugin changes. So I'm just gonna cancel out of that, not accept that. But if you do find that there are plugins that are being weird, that are crashing, that are breaking other plugins, it's one of the first things to do is kind of just to go in and disable all of these, turn them back on, and just see what happens. Yeah, and Saeed recommends that, like, even if it's not actually crashing, it can be a good way just to save resources. So especially if there is something that maybe you do use once every 6 months, but at no other time, you can sort of go in and turn it off and then bring it back in when you need it. That's definitely a good approach. All right, so I don't know that I've got anything more exciting to tell you. I mean, it has been fun to be here again, and I know I've been really bad at streaming lately and making content, but I hope to do a little bit more in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great weekend. When you get there, have a great week, and I will talk to you again very, very soon. And I guess the thing that's always in the back of my head is that I am looking at the subscriber numbers, and on YouTube specifically, it looks like there are 939, so that's amazing. My goal for this year is to get to 1,000, and I know for some people that's not a big deal, but for me it really is a big deal, and I think it's going to open up a lot of YouTube features and potential opportunities for me. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's supported the channel ever. It's really been amazing. And I think next week we might even take some time to look at showing some love to a YouTube channel and doing some of the maintenance that I'm really, really bad at. So we might do that next week. But don't forget to subscribe. Have a great week, and I will talk to you again very, very soon.